Today on Memento Mori, we are diving into the wondrous world of the egg fetish, okay? And listen, people, this is something that has been existing within me since my late teens, okay? As a late teen, probably around 16 or 17, I first read Story of the Eye by George Bataille, okay? And George Bataille was a French early 20th century philosopher and intellectual and poet and writer. Story of the Eye was his debut novella, first published in 1928. And in it, we kind of follow the erotic adventures of three perverted teenagers who explore the world of extremely graphic sex, okay, and exhibitionism and orgies and murder and a host of very specialized fetishes, including that of necrophilia and bull testicles and bloody eyeballs and a lot, and I mean a lot, of kink, all involving eggs, okay? And we're talking about, being sexually aroused by the cracking of eggs. We're talking both vaginal and anal penetration with both hard and soft-boiled eggs, urinating on eggs. At one point, after a night of wild sex, two of the characters find themselves with their heads resting on the rim of a toilet as they watch white eggs bob up and down within the water. Yeah, these kids, they love eggs, okay? It's a bizarre book, and I was first introduced to Story of the Eye, like I said, way back in my late teens, when I read an interview of the Icelandic singer Björk, okay? And I was and still am a huge fan of Björk, and I forget who the interview was by, but in it, Björk talked about how much she loved the book, and how the book kind of exudes this sense of freedom by exploring all these kind of taboo and morally corrupt themes, within the confines of art, and how that's, how in that form we can murder people, we can destroy people, we can put, hard-boiled eggs up our ass, and that's okay. And not only is it okay, but it's a positive thing. It's a good thing, within the confines of art, in this case, within fiction. And Björk was such a fan of the book that it even inspired one of her early music videos for a single she had called Venus as a Boy, okay? And in the video, it shows Björk kind of playing with eggs, and she's singing about a boy who believes in love and he believes in beauty. He's Venus as a boy, while she's in a kitchen cooking eggs. And that was all inspired by Bataille. Of course, it's a much more kind of classy interpretation, compared to, urinating in a bathtub of cracking shells. But nevertheless, Story of the Eye is a book I've read probably a half a dozen times since I first read it back then, and I continue to return to it out of, kind of morbid curiosity, and it's a book I just recently picked up again after watching the film Tampopo. Tampopo was a 1985 Japanese film directed by Juzo Itami, okay, and I don't know if it's a cult classic, but it definitely has its own kind of cult following. It's a very bizarre film, okay? One of the best films ever directed based around the topic of food. It follows, it's really weird. It follows a woman who runs a noodle bar, and it's kind of she's a widow, and her noodle bar is kind of failing. So she incites the help of a cowboy trucker to kind of train her in becoming a master ramen chef, okay, and helping her with this business. Very bizarre, but also throughout the movie, there's little threads that go off, and little vignettes that all revolve around the topic of eating and of food, and the story will veer off into these little side stories, one of which includes a man who is sexually aroused by food, and it involves scenes of him and a woman, and honey and sugar and raw shrimp and oysters, And then in one of the most famous scenes, it shows this man cracking a raw egg, okay? He cracks the raw egg and he takes the yolk and he puts it in his mouth without breaking it, and he proceeds to swap this yolk back and forth between himself and a woman. And they do this without ever breaking it. And finally, she orgasms and breaks the yolk within her mouth and lets it run down her face. And depending on who you are, you'll either think that that scene is very sensual, or you'll think it's really disgusting. Or if you're like me, maybe, a little bit of both. I don't think I have an egg fetish, to be honest. I really don't. But I get it. Like, the color of an egg and the texture and, the symbolic nature of the egg, it's a thing, right? I get it. But yeah, nevertheless, both Story of the Eye and Tampopo are both worth your time. Tampopo is much more of a kind of a feel-good affair, while Story of the Eye is not. It's kind of skeezy, honestly. But yeah, let me know if you have read Story of the Eye or seen Tampopo, or, do you have an egg fetish? I would love to know. Maybe it's related to some other sort of food. It could be pomegranates. It could be hot Cheetos, brown sugar Pop-Tarts. I don't know. What are you people are doing? But yeah, let me know down below what gets your yolk running.